Anime, the great equalizer. A source of unity, a source of diversity, a source of entertainment. That I want to stick my dick into! Oh yeah, oh, I want to fuck her. I want to fuck her. I want to fuck her. I don't want to fuck her. Actually, the tighter they are, the better, so the younger they are, the better. How could you not want to fuck a little girl? What are you, a pleb? Anyways, these three I like.
To masturbate, it felt so good, it felt so nice. Oh, it's so neat to beat your meat, it felt so good, it felt so nice. Oh, it's so neat to beat your meat, it felt so good, it felt so nice. Oh, it's so neat to beat your meat, it felt so good. To masturbate, oh, it's so neat to beat your meat, it felt so good, it felt so nice. Oh, it's so neat to beat your meat, it felt so good, it felt so nice. The long strokes.
So, SSSS.Gridman. An anime that's been the talk of the town in many circles, and, also, the source of many fat, unwashed, degenerate bodies. Know what I'm saying?
Hoo-ah!
And I've been watching it, I've seen all the episodes, and I gotta say, the opening fucking sucks. Well, not exactly, but we'll get into that after this unneeded fucking intro. SSSS, or Superhuman Samurai Cyber Squad, or Signature to Save a Soul, Gridman, is an anime revisioning of the 1993 tokusatsu Denko Chojin Grito Baby Don Don Man, or just Denko Chojin Gridman. A series that was all about monsters of the week and contrived ways to cause trouble for our heroes, like using sound waves to irritate the shit out of your eardrums for over 30 episodes, was turned into every weeaboo's wet dream. Now, I'm not going to talk much about the original Gridman here, but I am going to talk a whole lot about this one, so let's get into it. The first time that I saw the very first episode, I was pretty skeptical of what I was about to get myself into, until I saw the first appearance of Gridman. And I knew for a fact that this show fucking sucks. At least at first. It took me several watches to really dive into it, but I did. I still fucking hate that opening though. What I mean by this is that the opening song just doesn't fit for me as a battle theme. Not what like the last episode did, more on that later, but I just couldn't fucking comprehend the usage of it in a fight. I can comprehend it as an opening song, mind you, as well as a time for when things look desperate, but the good guys end up winning anyways, like a last-minute finisher. But at least the music with the movie that plays with every opening is the usual Studio Trigger fare. But it just doesn't work for me as a battle theme. And over the course of the entire anime series, watching from episode 1 to episode 12, I fell in love with it. Well, sort of. Hot Chinese cartoon life partners and opening songs as battle themes aside, I had a few issues with it. For one, I just never really fully got behind the usage of CGI models in fights. While it's not atrocious to look at, and doesn't really ruin anything, it just doesn't really make me feel like I'm watching a reboot, or even a continuation of the original Gridman. Gridman had a certain charm to it, and this CGI stuff just seems more like it gives an uncanny valley effect when compared. You can either try to reproduce it and fine-tune it in this CGI format, if you're going to make it a service for the fans, or you can just go all the way and go full 2D and make it look completely different, at least in terms of physical appearance, but keep the original spirit in mind. But nobody saw any of that here now, did they? And aside from the CGI not being as good as it could be, I also find issue with the fact that the series seems to set up one too many plot holes for me to fully understand the story. So, spoilers will be in effect for those who have never seen SSSS.Gridman or the original. In the original Denko Chojin Gridman, the cyber world was essentially another world where all of our computer programs and electronics run in. Gridman and his human lackey have to stop the virus monsters from destroying these things before all of our modern medical equipment and other forms of tech go haywire and become useless, thus ending the lives of many people in hospitals. And collectively ending the lives of many basement dwellers as well. When something is broken, however, Gridman can fix it in the cyber world using his fixer beam, and can also interact with the real world and fix stuff there. Now in Super Summer Sunshine Sex Gridman, the fixer beam is completely out of the question. Or is it? Long gone are the pragmatic reasons why we would need to have a fixer beam, and it's just straight up kaiju fights where it's all about giant monsters stomping around cities, and in its place is a mystery surrounding the memories of Hibiki Yuta, Gridman, and the Gridman Alliance's active fighting members, along with an obvious reference to the fabulous Over Justice from Space Patrol Luluko, who wants to have a girl whom I both want to fuck
Spicy. Oh yes.
and stay away from in a 500-mile radius since she swims in trash, create kaiju to destroy anyone who pisses her off. Now this is all fine and dandy, until you realize it's not. What I mean is that this series seems to want to be both a different thing from the original Gridman, while simultaneously being the same fucking thing. You've got the cyber world, which seems to be where everyone lives apparently. Then in the last episode, it seems like they're all living on a planet that was fucking being melded into the cyber world. So is it a cyber world? Is everyone a program created by the thick, majestic Akane and Alexis? Or are they flesh and blood? Is it a real world that's separate from our own, and Alexis has the power to create life itself to put into an already populated planet? Is he a Supreme Kai? Well, here's my take on it. So Alexis went to the world Akane lives in. He knocked on her door and said, "Go to sleep." And he promises her that if she goes to sleep, then
I can show you your world. Dim, disgusting, and deadly.
I'm sorry. I fucking suck at singing. But back on track. So Akane goes to sleep, and in her sleep, he took her mind and put it into this alternate world that exists independent of our own, and helped her create her ideal friends. Not creating cyber people, but creating real flesh and blood people. Which explains why they can even fucking bleed. In the original Gridman, programs and viruses don't fucking bleed. Only people do. Not even Gridman himself is shown shedding blood. So why would digital creations even have concepts of bleeding and shit? How could they even live lives on their own without some kind of god or user to turn them on when they're not in use? What if the computer that they're running on is turned off? Do they just up and fucking die? End of story? I mean, for fuck's sake, in the original Gridman, the cyber world, or the computer world, as I should be calling it, is literally represented as a bunch of circuit boards, implying it's literally just our computer circuitry and all that. Every piece of technology has its own computer world, because it's not really like a universe, it's just literally you shrinking in size to go fight monsters. And they were never even shown having plant life. And Con Digifer was never shown bothering to try to put plant life or anything else in the computer world. Just destroy shit so he can destroy our technology in our world. In the original Gridman, the cyber world could not be separated from the real world. Everything in the original Gridman was linked to our stuff, to our electronics. So, like, what the fuck? Why would there be a planet or anything else of that sort in this goddamn world? Hell, Gridman even gains the Fixer Beam and uses it in the last episode to fix the fucking world. So why would he need to do that for a world without a user or a god that's just gonna die in a matter of moments anyways? Hell, even a game like Civilization doesn't move or turn on unless you tell it to. You have to turn it on, it doesn't exist independently of you. It's not like Metal Gear Solid 3, where the game, if you turn it off, it will kill the end for you a week later. This isn't a Kojima production. Maybe Kojima's a goddamn genius, maybe he's a mad lad motherfucker. But you know what? Most other places, not so much. Unless the world itself is as real as ours, and Alexis was trying to meld the cyber world with that world so that he could manipulate it to the fullest degree. That would explain why there even is a planet, and not just the city that they're all living in. In fact, in the original Gridman, monsters or kaijus could actually materialize in the real world. But hey, that's just a theory. A Gridman theory. Because it's not fucking explained! It's just left to speculation and interpretation. Now with all that shit in mind, what's even good about this show? Well, if you're a fan of the original Gridman, there's a lot to like about this show. Especially in episodes like episode 6 and the last episode, where they make some of the more obvious references to the original Gridman, which also adds in more problems to the story due to episode 6. See this? This little lolly kaiju hobo who looks like she's been living in a dumpster her whole life? This cute little bubble of fun? She's a fucking relative to this giant mountain of poop from the original. Not in reference, but literally his descendant who was friends with the original Gridman. There goes the statement that this isn't going to be a continuation of the original. Okay, so I kinda lost track there. But yeah, episode 6 makes a reference to the original Gridman that blows that statement from Trigger and Tsuburaya Productions out of the fucking water, making them liars. In a good way. And it works for the title of this video. And episode 6 marks the first time we hear any reference to the original Gridman opening, Yume no Hiro, which is a better opening, I swear. And as for episode 12,
No way.
アクセスコードってこれが本当のアクセスクラッシュだ。これが本当のグリッドマンの姿なんだ。
Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Holy shit! Oh my god! Oh my fucking god! Holy shit! Holy fucking shit! It's happening! Nigga, it's happening! Oh my god!
so remember when I said nobody saw this show ever keep the original spirit in mind? Well, guess what? I lied too. Episode 12 is perhaps the most satisfying conclusion to a reboot / not a reboot that I've ever fucking seen. While it starts off with the usual sexy, stupendous, super supple fare of SSSS.Gridman, it isn't until you see the entire Gridman alliance with an acceptor do you realize that all your dreams of a trip back to your childhood have now descended upon you. Your fanfiction dreams come true. The junk accepts the Gridman access code, and you're suddenly, as a fan of the original, given the happiest and most skillful blowjob you've ever gotten once Yume no Hiro plays. While you see a familiar chest design burst from the chest of the newer Gridman design, and suddenly, the original baby to your Don bursts forth and delivers not only a spark beam, and not only that delicious Neo Chodendo kick to Alexis and his big stupid awesome grin, but all in glorious 2D Trigger-esque animation. And to add icing to the cake, the new opening is only played during the moment when Gridman finally learns his purpose and uses his fixer beam after realizing, oh shit, that's right, I can do that, and restores the world to its former glory, allowing the people of this city to once again live their lives the way they were before Akane and Alexis came to fuck it all up. This, without a doubt, is the Nirvana for any Gridman fan watching this show. When it comes to this series, it really left you hanging for a long time. It's nice to hear a few minor references to it here and there, and you get the gut feeling that you'll never truly get your desire to see this show truly acknowledge the original show through anything other than fanfics. But that one kaiju lolly making that jab at the original with episode 6, and finally at the end of episode 12, and you're gifted with the best way they could have, in their very little brains, make this work. They know you were killing to see something better than this CGI mess that offers nothing other than jabs at mystery, CGI, and hot titties and thighs. And they didn't deliver until the final episode. It was like the final battle in an anime where all is lost, till you get a Deus Ex Machina that makes no sense and you just have to roll with it. But here it works, because it wasn't trying to be its own thing from the get-go. Remember the title of this video. They lied to us. It was setting you up with those comments by the producers. It didn't seem like it to many non-Gridman fans, but it heavily relied on being a fan of the original Gridman to truly appreciate the sudden fixer beam usage among the return of the original Dawn of the Babies. Imagine it like this. You're a fan of the original Gridman. Okay, you sit there, waiting to see some good-ass references to the original Gridman. And by good, I don't mean light jabs. Essentially, you're waiting for every fanfic writer's wet dream. And we all kind of have that inside of us, just a little bit. But in the end, you get nothing much of substance to fill that deep void in your heart that only a good helping of a Chodendo kick can fill. You get some stuff here and there, like the lolly kaiju referencing a kaiju from the original, and some okay or half-decent piano version of Yume no Hero. But nowhere else do you hear or notice it being played. You even get a bit of a callback to the unused concept of a second Gridman called Gridman Sigma, with Anti becoming Grid Knight. But alas, you're left with nothing to truly fill that void. Then, as you sink further into the abyss, an ocean of pure darkness surrounding you, you hear a familiar sound start up. It's too soft and unnatural of a sound to fully tell at first, but then, a giant red hand reaches through the darkness to rip you right out of it as your auditory senses are blasted with the words and instead of being met with the face of the new Gridman in that one opening scene, the face of the true Gridman not only shatters the glass in the classroom, but the school itself and the entire world around you, as the collective shine of every sun in the universe is reflected off of Gridman's shiny-ass chrome dome, blinding you in the strongest light of pure nostalgia you've ever fucking seen. Your Chodendo kicked into oblivion, your spark beamed into ash, your grid lightsabered into a million pieces by this painful but pleasurable nostalgia that slaughters every bit of the darkness that has become you. You are probably taking this a little too seriously if you actually felt like this, which is why I'm a fucking degenerate weeb. But you know what, in all honesty, it did feel a little rushed at the end with the sudden fixing of Akane's heart. And I think it would have worked better if it was about 24 or even 30 or so episodes. They could have also spent more time delving into Anti, and how he became somebody who genuinely cares about Akane. I don't see why he just suddenly says, "Oh, you're not a monster, you're Akane Shinjo." But still, I can overlook that. But the return to form with Yume no Hero playing in the background, the quotes from Gridman that implies that this is the same Gridman from the original, makes this all the more worth it. As a fan of Gridman, if you were never a fan of the original Gridman or the Ultraman series, you'd have to heavily rely on the show's own merits to really even have a chance of enjoying it, and it's not really as good as an experience without the added nostalgic rush. Ain't that right, Alexis? Alexis.
Yes, what do you want?
Play a dead meme.
I wish I could kill myself.
Otherwise, it's just typical Trigger Studio bullshit endings. It's also a shame that, Tim Curry's dead, so they, couldn't ask him to play Alexis.
You can't escape. I'll rip your limbs from your body and slowly suck the marrow from your bones.
What?
I've been practicing my Tim Curry impression.
Pretty good.
Oh, yes. Thank you.
So, what are you here for?
Do you have Prince Albert in a can? You do? Well, you better let the poor guy out.
Meat thing.
But yes, Gridman is my favorite anime of this year just for that sheer payoff. What is this JoJo shit? That Goblin Slayer crap. All hail the Thickerata Squad, am I right?
Just kidding. I like those shows. Could you please subscribe to me on Patreon?